Hi everyone, it's Kim. Thanks for joining me. Not long ago, Tim Holtz reintroduced us to these 6 original colorized animals, and he has brought them back in their original size. So if you missed getting them the first time around, now you have another opportunity. But in addition to bringing back the originals, he has also created the same identical colorized animals, but in a smaller size. And he calls them mini, but I'm just going to say smaller because they're really not miniatures. They're still very good size animals. Fit great on an A2 card, where some of these guys were a little big for that. If you have not watched Tim's video yet, introducing the new colorized smaller animals versus the original 6, I encourage you to watch because some of the samples are just tremendous. And people have used the new animals with their original counterpart or sometimes just the new animals. That way you can see how they work on the different size cards, but the scenes that they have created are just out of this world. So I'm going to show you all the new ones, and I have combined one of the new animals with one of its original animals. So let's get started, and we are going to start first with the bear, who is Theodore. And this is the new packaging for Sizzix. So if you say missed out on the original sized animals and you order those in addition to say the new ones, you will get this kind of packaging. This was the original packaging, which is not what Sizzix is using anymore. It is this. And just so you know, this plastic envelope is still included in the packaging. So even though this is cardboard, you still get that plastic envelope to store your die pieces, which is nice. This is just a little larger than this packaging. And the other thing is, if you're looking for the name of the die set, it's in this little black box. And I will say, if it gets any smaller, I'll have to have a microscope to read it. But it does tell you the name of the die if you're hunting around looking for that. So let's get on with meeting our animals in person. Now, when I created these, first I just sat and I just die cut out and put together the animals. I did the one in the color kind of with the packaging or what you would think the animal would really look like. And then the second one I just did in whatever color. Some of them are pretty out there, but I made a kind of white colored Theodore, and I thought, well, he's perfect for the winter. So after I created all my animals, that's when I went back and thought, what scene am I going to put them in? And I went through the Tim Holtz index where you can check off basically what dies you have. And you're going to see a lot of old dies and a lot of Biggs dies. I just went back through my stash and thought I could maybe do something with this. So even if you don't have some of the old dies that I'm going to show you, I bet you've got something that worked. And today, my boundary was I had to stay with Tim Holtz's dies. Whether they were Biggs, Thinlits, new, old, they're all from Tim. So this guy, Theodore, is carrying this big wreath, and the wreath is old. And again, you're going to see that I've got some of mine on Clarence and where I got them. But this one came with an embossing folder, and I do think this today was the first time I had used this for this scene with Theodore. So again, you may have another wreath. Tim has a lot of wreaths out there, and you might have something different in your stash. Now, the hat and the scarf is also a new die that came out with this collection. And it's an accessory set, and this is called Vault Accessories Mini. There is also a larger set exactly like this, but made for the original animals. And all of these pieces have been in other die sets that Tim has pulled from. I know, like, one of these is a penguin and one is the snowman. And then these are just various die sets that have come out through time. I just have the smaller one to match the new smaller animals because I have so many of these in their original sets. But know that you can get this in the larger sets for the original animals. So the scarf and the hat come from this accessory set, and they fit the new Theodore, the newly sized Theodore, perfectly. So there we start with the bear. And then let's move on to the giraffe. So we have Gertrude now that we're looking at. And I did use the new Gertrude, the mini Gertrude, and the original Gertrude. So now you can see the difference in the sizes. So here's the new Gertrude. She'll fit perfectly on an A2 card, but you can see that the original Gertrude, she would have been a little big for an A2 card. And all of the animals face the same way. So as you could see on the packaging, they're set up exactly the same, but in order to get the two giraffes looking at each other, this is the back side of all of the pieces. So I just kind of put it together, back side up. And we know that that kind of makes it rough. So just take your bone folder and gently kind of smooth out all those pieces. And if you have forgotten how to put some of these together, if you get online at Sizzix.com, you can, it's actually on their YouTube channel, see a layout for each animal. And Tim said there's one for the original plus one for the new smaller version, but they should lay out the same. So if you've kind of forgotten a few of them, I was like, oops, I should have watched that on a couple of them because I had forgotten kind of what pieces. But again, follow along in the picture. That'll help you out. So these two are going on a trip, and I did use from the accessory piece the glasses. You can see all the different glasses, the flowers, and the hat. Now, for the rest of the pieces, this is where we're going back in time. The first one is the movers and shapers. That's this camera. This is old, old, old. This is where you need the tray, and then these stick to the tray, and you run it through like a big die. But if you have these, I had more fun pulling out all of this old stuff to combine with these new animals. And then the suitcase, that is a big die, and we're going to look at a lot of big dies today. That's called baggage claim. So there's 3 different suitcases, and I just picked one out to have the smaller Gertrude stand on. But I can't tell you how fun it was to go back through and pull some of these old dies out that I haven't looked at for a long time to use with these new animals. And if you have the Tim Holtz Index, that's a great way. I actually went through that just to look at what all the dies were before I actually physically went through them. And that did make it a little easier to see what all I had. Okay, here is Bernice. I love Bernice. So she's our generously sized hippo. And I just love this. So I was playing around with her. I made several Bernices in several different colors. None of my hippos were realistic, but this pink one seemed to go with this hand mirror. Again, this is an old Biggs die. Let's see, and this is called Deco Mirror. And there is another smaller mirror too that's, I believe, movers and shapers. So maybe you have that one and you could still do this kind of idea. So this is Bernice looking in the mirror with her reflection. And again, I just kind of, when I found the dies, that's kind of when I decided what my scene was going to be. But I love how this one came out. And on the inside, I just put "You're beautiful." I'm sure I have sentiments that would work with this, but this font is from a Thinlit die where we have, it's called Wood Slice. So we've got some older pieces and then the font that he put with it as well. And this is pretty large letters. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember how large those were. But just Bernice basically in the hand mirror. And I do. I love this card. And I think I just love Bernice. Okay, so next we're going to look at Harrison, who is the lion. And I used just the same head for Harrison on both of these. I was going to combine the larger with the smaller, but I wanted it to fit an A2 size card. And my frame is not that big. This head kind of goes outside the frame, but I think you get the idea. Like father, like son, this would be maybe a good Father's Day card. It's a little late for this year, but maybe next year. One nice thing, and you can do this with the original and with the new Harrison, like I could just make his head, take the pieces just to make his head, and basically not attach it to his body. And so I've got the father, kind of a gray-haired lion, and then the son, more like what a lion would look like. And then I used the bow tie, the top hat, and this other hat here for Dad. So again, try to pick some things out just to decorate them. Really, the accessory set is a great start, and you might find in some of your other dies pieces that you can use to accessorize your animals as well. And my frame is an old Biggs die, and I think there's even a larger one, but this is the one I came across, Decor Frames. So that worked for Dad, and then I needed some fairly small letters, and this is from Alphanumeric Label. And again, you might have something for Father's Day that you could use if you just wanted to put a sentiment there, or put something else in this spot, and then when you open it up, you could have your Father's Day sentiment. One of the animals that I made that is not realistic is this purple giraffe. Oh, and I love her. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I thought, well, she's kind of glamorous with that purple. And I had pulled this out when I was looking at my dies. This is an Alterations, old. It has dies, so I thought I can use it. Plus the stamps. There were several of these that came out. This one is called French Flight, but I thought it's got the Eiffel Tower in Paris. So my giraffe, she undoubtedly must be a model for Vogue magazine there by the Eiffel Tower. But this just gives you an idea of how you can have fun with them. It doesn't have to be necessarily a realistic giraffe or realistic any animal. So I've got my glasses from the accessory set and the scarf. I don't have a lot of accessories like hats or purses, things like that for my animals. So in time, I will be going through some of my other dies from other designers and pulling some of those pieces out to use with my animals. But I did put a couple little rhinestones on those glasses just to give her a little more glamour. And I'm wearing the scarf really in a different way than I think it was intended. This would normally be around the neck, but I needed something a little different to fit her. And I didn't want it to exactly look like a winter scarf, so I just used kind of the tail of the scarf around her neck. So again, do what you need to do to finish off your scene. Okay, this next one kind of got out of hand. This is huge. I'm going to use this as home decor. This is for our elephant Clarence, and this is the new Clarence. So you can see that's still a good size elephant, but he'd fit on an A2 size card where I don't believe that the original one would. So when I was going through the old dies, I've always loved this moose, and I thought, wow, maybe I could create another animal, because I also came across this die, another Movers and Shapers. This is the mini lantern and antlers, and I thought, well, I could use these antlers on one of the new animals. So that was kind of where I was going, and when I made the moose and then compared him to the elephant, I'm like, okay, huge difference. So I kind of went round and around. This may not make any sense when you look at this, but I did have fun. So I tried to make my elephant kind of more looking like a moose. He wore those antlers great out of all the animals. I think they fit him the best. And then I got the sleigh out, and that is an old Biggs die too. And this is called Sleigh Ride, but you know what? He fit into it. I did have to flip it around, because normally it faces this way, and I needed him to face that way, or he's facing that way, so it was easy just to flip that sleigh around. And then here's the moose. This is called Mary Moose. I've always loved this die. So I don't really know what the story of these two are. You can decide, because here's that tree from the Mary Moose die, and then I made this sign that says sleigh shop. However, it's pointing the opposite direction they're going. So again, I don't know what their story is, but I will put this on an easel and just enjoy it during the holidays. And I did use the hat and the scarf from the accessory sets. You can see how great this hat is, how it's sized and fits perfectly on Clarence there. So again, just having fun. Making the scenes is so much a part of it. Now I want to show you one other little thing I was playing with, and you may say, well, that's crazy, or, maybe not. So when I was pulling out some of these old dies, I have this one with the mustache. This is another Movers and Shapers. Let's see, this one is called Mini Mustache and Pointed Finger. And I thought, oh, maybe one of my animals could wear this mustache. But when I die cut it out, it's a pretty big die. And when I was trying it on, all the animals were trying it on. Really, the hippo is probably the best one. So I could change the colors, and instead of Bernice, I could maybe make Bernie as the hippo. But as I was playing around, I thought, well, you know what? What else could I do with this? And when I was picking up my pieces, this had kind of slid up to the top. And I thought, well, I guess that could be some hair for Bernice or Bernie. And how does that work on the other animals? So I thought, that kind of works for my elephant. But the more I looked at this, I thought, that looks like a matador hat. And I Googled matador hat, and it's truly called a montera. And then when I looked at it, I was like, okay, it doesn't really look like a matador hat versus what it looks like on Google. But, we always talk about trying to make things look like what they are. So, use your imagination. Maybe you think it works. Maybe you don't think it works. Maybe we could put little bows on the end and it would look more like hairs, or maybe it does look like a hat. But that's just another idea, and that's what was so fun about this. Finding dies you have, and then what else can you do with them? So this could be a mustache, hair, or a hat. Multi-purpose mustache. One of the animals that I did when I first made it, and really the only one that I thought of ahead of time, was our zebra, who's Winifred. And with those black stripes, I always have Halloween on my mind, and I thought I could make an orange zebra with those black stripes. She is perfect for Halloween, because in here I've got a little pumpkin basket and a witch's hat. So I was half set already with my scene. Then for the Halloween pieces, I had a huge choice. Loving Halloween, I think I have every Halloween die Tim ever made. There's a ton of haunted houses. I think there's 3 or 4 dies for haunted house. I just picked this one out. I used the moon and the bats. And then same thing with tombstones. Tim has a lot of tombstone dies. So whether using Tim's dies or somebody else's dies for your scene, if you want a haunted scene, I don't think this will be a problem. So for this haunted house, this is an oldie moldy. It's called Haunted House. And this one with the tombstones that I used, oh my goodness. I don't have the original packaging here. And let's see, Village Graveyard. That's what this one is. So again, go through your stash, see what you have, because 10 to 1, if you've got a lot of Tim's Halloween dies, you're going to have other haunted houses and other tombstones, and then the hat and the little pumpkin basket from the accessory set. And of course, I have to leave you with Halloween, just because that's my favorite holiday. I had made Bernice in like 3 different colors. And so I thought, I'm going to use her for a Halloween card too, because I love her so much. And when I was looking through the old dies, I came across this one. There is also a big die with the monsters. I think it might be this guy. I'm not sure. This is called Ghoulish, but there is a big die with a monster similar to one of these guys that would work just as well. So he's got a big piece of corn candy ready to put in her pumpkin basket. And I just pulled out this die, had this handy, sweet treats. I simplified it and I didn't put all these layers on. I just did the basic corn candy there. And the other thing that I loved is this window, and I had pulled this out. So I'm looking at this not so much as a church window, but maybe a window to a mansion. And this is called Cathedral Window. Again, an older Biggs die. And then the hat and the pumpkin basket are from the accessory set. And then her cape, I wanted something. So I went back and pulled this die out. I saw this cape here. This is called Trick or Treater. And I cut it out and I kind of modified it and basically folded it in half just so it would fit along her back and look realistic. I kind of just played around until I could get it to fit where it looked like it was a cape. So I think we'll see a lot more of what's out there with all of these new mini colorized animals. I'm just going to call them again smaller, but I hope that gives you some ideas. A lot of holiday related ones are out there, but it's just amazing. If you haven't seen some of the samples, get on whatever social media you like and take a look at what people have created, because it really is fascinating to see how all these guys have come to life again. So, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again in a future video.